I mean, in the last year, there's been an admissions scandal. Before that, there was a fillable campus initiative. The GEO had to go on strike to secure tuition waivers.
As I recall, Dick, the issue of tuition waivers was never a matter of discussion in the GEO. It was something that was just planned to be done. Actually, the two of us were there in terms of what our plans were, so I think, have a pretty good idea of what was being discussed.
It was shocking to hear Chancellor Easter say that tuition waivers had never been a subject of discussion and bargaining. I guess I found that particularly shocking because I bargained the contract as lead negotiator, and I knew that tuition waivers had been a central issue. And as well, the strike in November 2009 was only about tuition waivers. And then back in April 2009, when we presented the first contract proposal to the university, we'd made tuition waivers one of our 4 pillars. Those 4 pillars were living wage, healthcare, childcare, and tuition waivers. The entire bargaining team was particularly adamant about getting language into the contract that would protect our tuition waivers. And the reason for this was that our tuition waivers had been threatened just a few weeks before the start of bargaining. Back in January 2009, we found out about a series of proposals coming out of the Provost's office that would have radically transformed the way in which tuition waivers operated at the university. We were, of course, very concerned about these proposals, and the GEO got a bunch of folks together, including administrators and members, to talk about those concerns. Ultimately, the proposals were dropped by the administration. However, these concerns about tuition waivers continued, and going into bargaining, we decided to make it one of our 4 pillars. Also, by the time we reached bargaining, kind of the peak in October 2009, this issue had gone from being one of 4 issues to being the key issue for many of our members.
So we have really low wages, really expensive living costs, fees, and childcare and healthcare. And then lastly, and this is probably the most shameful and the thing that people are probably most upset about, is the tuition waiver issues. Apparently now, tuition waivers for us are not really a condition of employment. They would like us to pay.
You know, if they take away tuition waivers, and they're messing with our health care, correct, and with our wages, I don't think I'll be able to really sustain, in the long term, I don't think I'd be able to sustain my education. I mean, if I didn't have a tuition waiver, I wouldn't be here at all.
So tuition waivers were definitely on the administration's radar, and by the end of that last bargaining session at Willard Airport on November 14th, they were the only issue we hadn't resolved. The university knew that if we didn't reach a resolution on tuition waivers, we would be going on strike. The GEO's position on tuition waivers in that last bargaining session was the same as it had always been. We'd never made progressive proposals on tuition waivers. We were simply asking that the administration guarantee the status quo. They said they wouldn't do that, and so we went out on strike.
The GEO was out in the rain again today, picketing major classroom buildings. The strike came after the latest bargaining session with the university failed to reach a compromise on one major issue, tuition waivers.
Because if we didn't have tuition waivers, I wouldn't be able to come here to school, and, you know, it would actually kind of get away with a graduate college because nobody else would be able to come to school here. Every other university offers tuition waivers. I don't understand why Illinois is trying to consider changing their practices.
As soon as the strike started, the administration started to claim that this was an 11th hour issue and that tuition waivers had never been part of our original contract proposal. The Provost Easter sent out an email to the whole of campus in which he was claiming that tuition waivers were not under attack, that nobody wanted to remove anybody's tuition waivers, and that we already had all of the protections that we were asking for, which was really confusing because that's totally inconsistent with what we were hearing in the bargaining room, where they would not sign language that was essentially the same as what he was saying. So going into the end of bargaining, we really felt like the administration was claiming that we'd invented the entire issue of tuition waivers.
What's left is just to point out the obvious, and that is that nobody intends to take tuition waivers away from graduate students. Nobody ever has, and nobody does now, and it's not going to happen, okay? And what I hope to come out of tomorrow's meeting is a clarification of that very, very simple point.
So when we met the next day for an emergency bargaining session with the administration, we made a counter proposal that extracted language from Easter's email verbatim. We made the proposal to the administration, they looked it over, they signed it, and we had a a contract that we believe included a guarantee of the status quo on tuition waivers. So that's why it was really surprising to hear Chancellor Easter saying that tuition waivers were never a subject of discussion and bargaining.
The issue of tuition waivers was never a matter of discussion in the GEO.
We all know, and he should be very aware, that tuition waivers were the issue in bargaining. So here we are less than a year after the strike and tuition waivers are under attack again. In June we found out that many incoming students in the College of Fine and Applied Arts will be receiving only base rate tuition waivers, while previous students in the same appointments received full tuition waivers before. Hopefully we can do something to prevent this from happening. But either way, one thing is clear, the administration lied to us.
Nobody intends to take tuition waivers away from graduate students. Nobody ever has, and nobody does now. And it's not going to happen, okay?
Despite what they said, they want to take away tuition waivers.